PD. So I understand you, Ms. Marston, when you said that the majority of our ninth graders are in math has a deficit of a fourth, fifth, and sixth grade level. So we want to look specifically at the algebraic portion of that standard because it weighs more on the EOC testing. And so the math teachers and I believe that if we employ those strategies that we suggested in the email that we sent out, that we believe it will make a significant impact on the EOC and prior to the EOC in their test scores and also on their quizzes. So I know you're going to do pullouts with the students. Do you have a different strategy from what we would like to do? Because we would like to, when it comes to word problems, have the students underline those keywords in those problems, write out what's given, unknown, so that they should be able to identify the correct variables. What strategy are you going to use? The same ones or a different strategy when you do the pullouts?
I'm going to attack it from two different perspectives. I'm going to attack it from maybe the standpoint that the students may need further accommodations and modifications to be able to access the content. So depending on their score, I will then adjust what it is that I do. If the child or the student exhibits deficits in calculations, then I would then propose that they are able to use a calculator. If the student has deficits in reading, and if that's coupled with a reading skills deficit that we've identified, then that student, I would then suggest test read aloud as an accommodation for that child to be able to access that. And so that's that one aspect. Mm-hmm. The other aspect is to ensure that they are able to do the actual problems, the word problems, able to solve them. So my strategy for that is to actually employ a technique that I used with my students years ago. And it's very simple: understand, plan, carry out, look back. With the understanding portion, it's understanding what's being read to them if they have the test read aloud, or understanding exactly what they're reading, using the keywords, and all of those different things. That's what the understanding portion of that is. Then you have the plan portion. The planning is what do I need to do to solve this problem? And that's also just basically being able to synthesize all the information that's contained in the problem. So that's your plan. Carrying out is actually computing the problem. If the child needs a calculator to actually solve that problem, then at that time they will be taught how to use the calculator to solve the problem and what they need to do. And then to look back is being able to assess, is this answer reasonable? Does it make sense? If they give you 4 answers, maybe also being able to plug that particular answer in, mm-hmm. to see if that maybe the answer, whatever they get, is it here? Does it make sense? Those types of things. Look at the steps to make sure that reflect on what we've done. So that's, I kind of going to use a wrap-around, a comprehensive approach to problem solving in that manner. That's going to be my strategy with my pullouts.
And I love that strategy. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering, are you willing during our next team grade meeting, mm-hmm. to demonstrate how that strategy works, so that we're all doing the same thing? Every class they go in, they will hear the same language. We'll all the teachers and the students will be doing the same thing. And I think being consistent and redundant will really help them to solidify steps, because that's a problem with algebraic solving. They get a little scattered. They're not sure, what do I do next? But if we're all saying the same thing, then it won't seem that I'm saying one thing, Ms. Mills is saying something else. Then my other question is, what happens for the kids that really don't know how to find those variables? What's going to be that next step? Because I love the fact that we do need to not assume that they know how to use the calculator, but teach them how to use the calculator. And looking at the data that you have right here, it seems like the majority of the students missed that one particular question. And looking at it, they knew what they were looking for, but the answer was wrong. They had it set up. So maybe that was a calculator error and not a comprehension error. What do you think?
I think that we would need to examine further and bring the student in and maybe recreate the scenario.
Jador Williams, you need to report to the front of the school. Jador Williams, come to the front of the school right now. Thank you.
And so rather than try to guess what the student is doing, it's best to just recreate and watch the natural process happen. And also to ask, what was going on? This is the answer you got. Tell me your thought processes, or tell me your thought process in coming up with this answer. So that would be what I'm going to do with that particular type of situation.
Okay. So I know we have a grade level meeting next week, next Tuesday. So do you think you'll be prepared next Tuesday to give us a demo of how to do your that procedure so that we're all doing it?
Yes, I'll be able to demonstrate that strategy for everyone in the team.
Okay. And then the other thing, do you have any other suggestions as far as when we should look back and meet again with you once we have implemented these strategies?
Well, I'm always one with the, when we start implementing strategies, let's give it maybe a couple of weeks. Let's look at the data. I would like to do a pre-test and post-test just on that particular skill that we're going to target. And then we're going to do a post-test prior to the actual review date. And so we're going to do this for 2 weeks after we have 2 good weeks of instruction. And then we're going to look at that data on the 3rd week. So we're going to identify the area of weakness, do 2 weeks of actual remediation, post-assessment, pre-assessment, post-assessment, and then we're going to come to the table and look at maybe we can adjust the strategy, look and see if we implemented that strategy with fidelity, and ensure that if there are any lags in any of those processes, that we can then adjust at that time.
Sounds good. And then final, the grouping.
Yes.
I know you've already identified, according to the data, those students that will need those immediate interventions. Do we have anything in place in case we've missed a couple of students? Can we add them on to the group that you already have?
Yes, if we miss students, and it depends on what exactly we missed. If they have not tested, then we will then test them at that time. If it's a student that comes in and is unable to test, then we have another an actual method assessment that we will provide for them at that time. And so what we will do is then see exactly where they're functioning, maybe target that particular skill that we're focusing on, and then place them in a group accordingly.
Okay, that's